Okay, so we are on. Thank you very much, Keith. Wonderful to have you here on our Stroke Support India open house session. Just a quick introduction to us. We are a patient support group focused primarily on stroke, based out of India, and primarily stroke affected and their family caregivers, supported also wherever possible by doctors, physiotherapists, etc. And even psychologists sometimes have joined into our sessions. And in this kind of chat where people such as you, inspiring people such as you join in, the basic idea is to go a little bit into your journey. Where were you before? How did you get where you are? And how it has been so far? Where do you see yourself, going forward? And of course, get inspired and encouraged in the process. So that is in short where we are. I will just introduce Keith also a little bit. And we have been interacting on email and on Facebook off and on, and I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity. It took us some time, but here we are. And Keith had a stroke at the age of 48. Normally people say it is for the elderly, etc. But and we have even on our group young people also. So while he was a sales manager, he had a stroke at the age of 48 and looked around, did not find the right kind of support to help with issues after stroke, and decided to create one's own. That is wonderful, finding purpose and helping others, and is presently dedicated to helping stroke survivors regain their power and strength, and has a website, Strength After Stroke. I will put the link on our YouTube video also later on, and where he keeps on having various, for example, Zoom calls, video calls, etc. And of course, we will talk about it more as we go along. So that is a little bit about Keith. And again, thanks everyone who could join in. This is what we will have is we'll have a small chat and then we will open it up. Either you can put in the chat, or if you like, you can even unmute yourself at the time, come up with your thoughts, your journey. It's supposed to be an interactive session, an informal session for all. That's how we configure that. So that's where it is. With that, I will just start. And Keith, I just wanted to chat a little bit about your life before stroke. Wonderful to have you here. What were you doing before stroke? What kind of a lifestyle it was? Your friends, your family, if you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So first of all, let me just say thank you, Hardeep and Stroke Support India. I just really appreciate you guys inviting me to come on, and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me very much. So thank you. Before my stroke, I had a fairly large manufacturing company. I was one of the partners in a pretty good sized manufacturing company. When I say pretty good sized, I mean, we had over 100 employees and all that. And so, yeah, things were going well. And in my story, as I talk about, my story, I talk a little bit about that, and I'll share some of that as we go along here. But yeah, you think you have your life all planned out, you're all set to go, and then stroke happens and changes your life completely. And so we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, indeed, it's an event. I was reading somewhere, I think I don't remember the title of the book, but I think the first sentence was, a stroke changes everything. And that struck me because, yes, it's a fact. Here we are trying to post along, and in comes an event that we are largely unprepared for. I wonder if you knew something about stroke before, like the symptoms, what could cause a stroke. Did you have any idea yourself?
No, sir. I did not. And I find that to be very common within our industry, because most people, I mean, you've heard of stroke, right? Or you know a person or two that's had stroke. One of the things I profess very much is that other people who haven't had a stroke do not realize really what we're going through, because our brains, we've killed a bunch of cells, and we're different. We somewhat different, and I talk about that as well. And so, no, I really had no idea what happened.
So now that you look back, I think which year did you have your stroke? That was
2010. 2010.
so almost 13 years. Now that you look back, was there something you could have done, to avoid maybe or to minimize the impacts? What is your
So
theory on that?
now you're Hardeep, you're opening up some things that I'm very passionate about. We haven't talked about this, you and I. And so my stroke was something that I had a physical ailment that no one in my family knew about until I had a stroke. I mean, I wasn't overweight. I was in great shape, and all my medical stuff was all in I really was in good shape. And then I have this thing, it's called HHT, which stands for hereditary telangiectasia. And so it's a unique blood problem that I have that caused my stroke. One thing I would just like to say this real quick, Hardeep, is that many people, you look at all the numbers and they say, oh gosh, 85% of all strokes are caused from people who are overweight. I do not agree with those numbers. And I talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who've had stroke, and that is not my experience. I think that many things can happen and can cause stroke. And so we've got to be prepared. We got to continue to work at it. I agree. And the eating and all that is critical. But if it happens, you've got to, so many people go into depression. And that's one thing that I really work hard at, is helping people get through that.
You're right. So this genetic thing that you talk about, HHT, this is something pretty rare, or is it, in your experience, is it something that is fairly common?
No, it's very rare. It's very rare. And you can look it up, HHT. It's hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. It's this huge word, but you can look it up. But and it's very rare, but still there's hope for people like that. And frankly, because of my stroke, we've stopped so many people from having stroke that found out they had it. And really what it is you have a lot of nosebleeds and stuff like that. That's a telltale sign of it.
Okay, absolutely. As you know, awareness and talking about it, although we have on our group people, I think there's a term for that called cryptogenic stroke, where despite all the tests, people never realize what happened.
Right.
I think about 20-25%. So at least in your case, at least there is a diagnosis which one can talk about, which one can caution people about, to be aware of that also. So that was how it happened. And when you landed up in a hospital, what was your experience there? Did they immediately recognize what was happening? Did you get prompt treatment? Or was this?
Yeah. In today's society, after COVID and everything, it's really difficult for people to get the attention that they need, frankly. When I was taken in, it was discovered quickly. They got me right in. Once, some time it had elapsed, of course, which most people experience, where you're home and and that's part of my story. And I don't know if we even should go into it, but, you know, so I ended up going there, and I ended up going to 3 different hospitals because of the HHT. They discovered that I had that. I don't even know who did discover it, but I went to 3 different hospitals before they finally figured it out. Yeah.
And at the time of discharge, what kind of what was your status? What were the deficits that you thought of were at that time, having or
Well,
feeling?
at that time, I thought it was hilarious because I was my wife. Now, she did not think it was funny, but I couldn't remember dates. I couldn't remember birthdays. I couldn't remember names of people. A lot of things were missing, and at the time it was happening, I was kind of laughing about it, which is kind of my demeanor anyway. But she didn't think it was funny at all. And so does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think again, you touch upon an interesting aspect. Your personality before stroke, you know, do you have an optimistic personality? Do you have an outgoing personality? It has a lot of bearing, on how to cope with what is happening now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Hardeep. And that is what I profess, and what I really try to help people get to is you've got to be willing to change your attitude. You've got to be willing to find a new passion. Sometimes you got to find a new purpose. And that is very difficult, especially as you get older, let's say you're in your 50s or 60s. It's even 70s, it's hard to find a new passion or something. And we cannot give up and just be depressed because we're not finding a new passion or purpose. We've got to be willing to work at that, just like you do a job or whatever, so that you can find something that new that excites you. I mean, I talk to so many stroke survivors who have lost their ability to move limbs and or walk or whatever, and gosh, they go into a huge depression. And frankly, from my experience, it's a huge number. I mean, I'm saying like 90% of the folks that I talk to are really they really go through the depression. And so for me, the key is to find a way, find a new purpose. Let's get you out of the depression. Let's move you forward in life.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Shailaja wants to say something. Shailaja, you want to say something at this stage?
Yeah. Yes. Hi, my name is Helga.
Yeah.
I there was in and out a little bit. Say that again, please.
Yeah. My name is Shailaja.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. So
Hi.
I just wanted to know one thing. Can you elaborate on your family, the things that you have spoken? And to the point, which side of affected?
Shailaja, your voice is breaking up. Maybe you can
I can't
put it in the
Oh,
chat.
my voice. Okay, 1 minute. Which side of was affected? That's what I want.
Okay, she wants to know, I believe, which side of the body, in your case, was more affected,
Yes.
and what kind of deficits, if any, at that time did you have?
Okay, so I believe it was my left side. And and do I say this right? Shailaja?
Shailaja.
Yes, sir. Shailaja.
Shailaja.
Mhm.
Shailaja. I'm so sorry, Shailaja. Yeah, I believe it was my left side, but let me say this. Yes, there were major deficits. Okay. And the major deficits were, so I had a pretty large manufacturing company. We had a huge array of products, and I was the sales manager and owner of this company. And so anyway, after my stroke, I could not remember hardly any of those products. And then, yeah. And so over time, if you're willing to continue to work at it, and you have to work, you've got to be willing to read and continue to work at it, things get better. And it doesn't happen overnight. I talk to so many stroke survivors who think that, okay, I had a stroke and a month or two, I'm going to be back to, doing stuff. And I'm here to tell you that it takes a lot more usually than that. And so I like to encourage people, because you've got to keep after it. You got to keep working. But getting back to the main question, now I feel I'm pretty versed on things. I can get through things, but I still have deficits. Some of those deficits are remembering people's names. It drives me crazy. But I try to find a way to cheat. There's lots of cheats that you can discover within yourself and do certain things. If I, like, let's say maybe you noticed, I don't know if you're seeing this, but when you said your name, and of course I see your name up there, but I made a note, right? So, I'm constantly, I've got paper in front of me. I constantly do that kind of stuff, but I'm getting long-winded. I don't mean to do that.
With maps and all those things also. Maps, navigation. Maps, navigation. Are those also difficult things?
Sorry,
And-
Shailaja, your voice is breaking.
Okay, I'm
Yeah, maybe you can put it in the chat box, and then we can, take it up.
Yes.
Coming back, Keith, you talked about, your job, but did you go back to the job after stroke happened? Would you handle the job, after that, after some time?
So what happened to me was after the hospital and after being home for quite a while, and then I went back to part-time and started doing stuff like that, and I went back, and then because I couldn't remember the product line and all these things, I was moved into a different position, of course, right? I couldn't do the sales manager stuff. And so I was moved into kind of a new position. Here I was the owner. There were 4 owners, and I was one of the owners of the company. And the next thing I know, I'm doing delivery drivers. Well, I was delivering the product. Well, I never told anyone this, but I didn't know where anybody was. Even if I'd been there the day before, I couldn't remember who I was going to. And so I would print out all these things, and their names and everything, and I would deliver. And then I also had to stop and take naps, actually. And I never told anybody any of this because I was afraid of what would happen. And it did happen. They had to let me go from the business because one of my partners went to a neurologist meeting with me. And this was in 2010 now, keep in mind. And the neurologist said, well, you got about a year and a half. It's as good as it's going to get for you. And so my partner knew that, and he went and talked to the other partners, and they let me go about 2 years later.
Okay, so the neurologist said what? You have about a year and a half for what? I didn't hear you there. You have a year and a half for what?
To get better, and that's as good as it's going to get for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now so I talk about this as well to other people, because I ask the question many times in groups, how many of you have heard that you only have about a year and a half? Now it's getting less and less, because now we know, right, that you can continue to grow your brain and get those get things to wire.
Correct.
Correctly.
The neuroplasticity aspect that we talk about. Yes.
Absolutely. But back then in 2010, the neurologist that I went to said, you got a year and a half is as good as it's going to get for you. And one of my partners was with me in that medical meeting. So.
Yeah, even that, interesting, because that is something that even now we hear quite often, even in India, that the fastest recovery or whatever recovery is going to happen in 1 year, and that's it. And that is something, even now, sometimes when I'm interacting with people who are joining the group, we talk about that. And the kind of example that I gave is, look at even someone who is not stroke affected. For example, let's say he wants to ride a bicycle today. Doesn't mean that he cannot ride it, but he learns. He tries. And one fine day, he's on. Look at
Yes.
learning music, for example. It's learning piano, for example. So to say that there is going to be nothing beyond an age or beyond a certain time is a fallacy. I think we have to overcome.
We give the neurologists, and I'm not offending anyone, I think the world of them, but we give doctors and neurologists way too much credit. Okay. We are smart too. And we have to realize that and not always buy into everything we're told by docs and neurologists and PTs and everything else, because we are experiencing this. And so we have to motivate ourselves. Okay. No one is going to motivate you. You've got to make the decision to motivate yourself and to continue on this journey and to learn, process, grow. And I challenge people all the time that when they have a stroke, to start journaling or recording it on a iPhone or your phone, or whatever you can do to make record of where you've been and see the progress, because as you see the progress, you will continue to grow and learn and do more.
Absolutely. Yes. We do talk about it on our group also, journaling, where you can see that there is improvement, and that kinds of gives you a positive feedback, and you can take it further from there. And I think most of the people, many of the affected on our group have started that practice. Even on the group, sometimes videos are posted before and after. And as you rightly said, there are many people who have been told by someone or the other, that this is as good as it gets. And from there, they have come back. In fact, we have on our stroke support group, we have two bodybuilders. One was a bodybuilder even prior to stroke, but the other, interestingly, he became a bodybuilder after the stroke happened.
Wow.
And, he takes parts in marathons and bodybuilding championships. So life and determination can move mountains, really. And I think all the stroke warriors in some ways are clearest examples. The determination they bring to the table and the efforts that they make are amazing indeed.
Well, so as you're talking about this, I think about that bodybuilder that you're talking about. Okay, so he found a new passion. He found something that motivated himself. He found a new purpose, frankly. And to me, purpose and passion are different from one another, but you've got to find that, whatever it is, and start moving that direction. And as you move that direction, you may find something else. It may branch out. But if you don't start looking for that new passion, I mean, once again, Hardeep, everybody, they work, they had their job, they had everything like that. And then, all hell breaks loose and everything's changed. Well, they live in that, and you've got to start looking for a new direction sometimes. And it's hard as you're older, right? But that's where it's at. Life is about finding new stuff and being excited again. And it's time to do that, even after stroke.
Absolutely. And that, there's an interesting question in the chat. Naima has put, what was or what has been your motivation? How did you come around to that?
So, okay. So, let's go back to hearing that from my neurologist and business partners. And I went through hell for a while. I was very depressed. And for me, that's unlike me, right? But I went down that road, and finally one day, and frankly, I know exactly where I was. I know what I was looking at and everything. I finally said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm not going to leave this world or this earth yet. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to change my mind, and I'm going to start working towards helping other people. And when I got that excitement, that's what I decided to do. And so that's where Strength After Stroke came from, you know. And now I got certified as a mentor, and I have my base program, which we can talk about or not, I don't care. But I will say this, it's about belief, attitude, strength, and energy. And the strength isn't so much physical strength, like maybe you're bodybuilder, but it's mental strength. We've got to have that mental strength. And so base is about that. It's believing in yourself. It's having the right attitude to keep going. Are we going to get knocked down? Absolutely. You know, you're going to take a step forward and 2 steps back sometimes, and 2 steps forward and a step back. That's life. Life is that way. And so we just have to remember that just because we're stroke survivors doesn't mean that life has to end and it has to be that way. It's going to be a struggle at times, but so what? So is life for everybody at times. So, you know, just keep going.
I'm just to carry that line of thought further. What kind of, when you were depressed, was there any specific medication you took or anything? What worked for you? You know, some people meditate, for example. In India, we have some people get into yoga, for example. So
Okay.
what was working for you at that time, besides, of course, finding, as you said, a passion?
Yeah. So the docs put me on antidepressant for a while.
Okay.
And if it was up to them, I'd still be on it. Frankly, this sounds like I'm beating up docs. I'm not trying to, but I just know that they know what they know, and they are trained where they were trained, and that isn't always what's right for you and I. So I finally got to a point, probably 4 years after I was taking the antidepressants, that I just decided I'm not doing this anymore. I slowly worked my way off of them because you can't just stop them. And I did tell my doctor I was doing it, and he's like, okay. I mean, you know, I did, it wasn't a question. It was, I'm doing this. And so I did that. And then it was just, you know, aspirin for me. But I don't even do that anymore. But that being said, because my stroke was a little different than some, so I'm not saying that for anybody else, but the antidepressants, those can have effect on you long term.
Yeah.
And I don't like that, frankly. And so I profess that we can get our mental strength back and get off of that. And I noticed somebody put in the chat, do I meditate? Yeah, so I'm a big believer. I've got many of these, and I journal almost every day, and I believe that journaling and meditating, I think that has a profound effect on us as stroke survivors, because let's say you start the day out and you have a million things going through your mind. I love to journal, and I get everything that I can out, and meditate, and that's my way of getting it out of my brain so that I can relax and have a good day. And so I do believe in those. Yes,
absolutely. And talking about, you know, depression and the things that you mentioned, what would be the role of family and friends in recovery and in these aspects in your experience? Are you having the same friends, for example, pre-stroke and post-stroke?
Okay, so no, some yes, some no. So my belief, and this is just me, because I've had a lot of time to think about this and think it through. So I have some great friends who stayed friends through the thick and thin of it, and they're super friends. I had some friends who left me and never came around, and I thought that it was all me. Really, what that is, and I would love to tell the group this, it's them. They may not have, and I don't mean this in a mean way, they may not have the ability mentally to come see you. They may suffer themselves a little bit. And so we've got to give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes and say it's okay that they're not still coming around as friends. Now let's shift gears a little bit on the caregiver side. So a lot of times it's the spouse, a high percentage of time it is. And one of the things that I like to talk about as well is that, you know, the caregivers don't get credit. I'm going to challenge each and every person that's on this call to go and give your caregiver some credit, because we are so focused, and rightly so, we're so focused on growth and trying to get better that we sometimes get locked into that, and we forget to tell our caregiver how much we approve and appreciate what they do for us. I mean, it's amazing. And I profess a lot of times you've got to be sure you're giving credit to them, even just physically saying I love you or whatever it is, because they deserve that.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we do talk off and on our group also, because many of us are caregivers, and sometimes the caregivers do get, pretty worked up, pretty tense. I mean, these are tense times, quite frankly, particularly immediately after a stroke, maybe 1 year after a stroke, when one is just settling down. And, I saw a nice saying someplace which said something like, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you have to look after yourself first. And so that it's not a selfish act. It's an act which enables the caregiver to look after the near and dear one, and sometimes keeping, what they call tough love, practicing that. Not that everything is going to go as per the affected, because, well, he or she needs, but beyond that, there are times that when the caregiver also, needs the distance, the time to recuperate. And in fact, I think there is a term for it. Will come to me in a minute while we chat along, which is being talked about in various circles.
Say that again. Say that part again. I missed that.
I said there is a term for that in medical circles. That term will come to me in a minute as we go along.
Oh,
a kind of a setup. Respite workers, we are talking of respite workers, people who will take the onus for a little bit while the caregiver goes, maybe socializes, maybe goes to the bank, maybe catches up on things.
Right.
So there are people, at least in India, I don't know how it is in US, but in India, I have seen websites, service providers saying that, you go do what you want to do. We'll take care half a day. Don't worry too much about the affected back home. We are trained. We will take care of that. So that is also happening, and I think that is important. That is something. Respite for the caregiver is very, very important. I've seen there is. Sorry, you were saying?
I was just going to say, Hardeep, that it's things like what we're doing here today. It's all the stroke survivor meetings that I run. It's all the stroke survivor meetings that you run. It's and I know so many people who are doing this now. We're really getting, if you look at the curve, I don't know which way you guys can see, but the curve's like this, and it's barely coming up. And I feel like we are at the impasse here of this really going upward. and we're making a difference in the world. And I feel like we're really getting something accomplished. I could be gone by the time it happens, but you know what? We are making it happen.
No, absolutely. I think every little step makes a difference. And yes, maybe beyond a tipping point, it goes beyond a tipping point at one time, and we strive for that. I'm seeing a question in the chat from Shailaja. Maybe
Okay.
you can also, he says, how are you emotionally balanced? The things that you say indicates that you have understood and appreciated everyone's effort, while we survivors are usually emotionally down due to the realization of things that cannot be done, post-stroke. So,
Yeah.
question is, how do you keep your balance, emotional balance, given these situations? Yeah,
Okay.
Shailaja, that you had read the question. Yes.
Hi. So, it starts within, Shailaja. It starts within. You've got to determine for yourself that it's important for you to gain back the emotional balance that you had prior to, and not live in the whole, I'm a stroke survivor, everybody notices I'm a stroke survivor, my life is totally changed. Yes. Okay. Yes. But you have to make the decision to get on. And once that decision is made and you start down the process of figuring out what's new in life, what can I do differently? What can I get excited? Maybe it's children, maybe it's grandchildren, maybe it's, a dog, a cat, maybe it's helping other people. I find that when you decide to help other people, it really helps you take your mind off of your own problems, and you start worrying about, how can I help this other person? So that is how I stayed emotionally balanced. Do I go through garbage? Absolutely. Absolutely. There are times when I'm like, what the heck? My company, I ran into, just off subject a little bit, but I ran into one of my old partners last year. And when I left the company, we were about 15 million. And he told me they're almost 50 million today. And he's probably making tons of money. And I'll be honest, I was fairly motivated by money for a while. And when we left this conversation with him, my wife and I were taking a walk, and I was like, that really irritated me. And she's like, yeah, I know, but life is good and all this. And so it took me about 2 days to go through that process. It really did. But as I got through that, I was like, I'm so happy. Listen, I get to help do this. I get to help other people. You can't put a dollar sign on that. And my heart is full from doing that. But it took time. It took a lot of effort to get here. And I just believe in that, and know that you can keep moving forward, and you're going to find your way.
No, absolutely. I think all of us at one time or other, particularly the affected, even the family caregivers, I think we go through these struggles. Suddenly, I was a bit short. Suddenly things have changed. As you said, financial issues crop up. These are issues which have to be faced by the family. And as you said, when you see someone as in your position, you were in a company, you helped found that company, make that company, and that company has grown big, and you're not there anymore. So I can imagine that at some place one imagines that what might have been. But I think, as you said, one comes back to what is, and find contentment, find grace and gratitude in that, and find purpose in that. And as you said, you cannot put a dollar sign to many things.
Right.
You really cannot. The people that you have, one helps the people I know, sometimes I'm called. We run a campaign. We have a standee which we put in different hospitals about, the stroke symptoms, etc., etc.
Mhm.
So sometimes I have been called by people that we think that we have this symptom, but we are not very sure. And I have to tell them, rush to a hospital. I don't know what happens before. I don't know what happened after. I never maybe get a call back. But perhaps we saved someone from a more serious outcome. So we may
Yeah.
not even know about what happened, but in some fashion, we do make a difference, as you said, and I think that is important to work towards. I'm seeing Shruti has also raised her hand. Shruti, you want to say something? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Keith. Very nice to hear you today and
Thank you.
hear and listen to all your experiences and particularly the journaling. And it definitely helps a lot. I know it helps to de-stress too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What I want to know is, see, my personal opinion is life has given a second chance both to the stroke survivor and to the family after the stroke. But to bring about a sense of balance within the family and to get life back on track, accepting the new normals takes huge amount of effort. Uh, to get life back on track, yes, definitely. We can, each one of us have a different perspective now. But to get a sense of balance within the family, making the children understand, and to get through the flow of the regular family life, we have taken anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So, what was it in your home like?
Okay. So number one, I have a wonderful spouse, and not everybody does. And so I do understand that. However, and it sounds like you do as well. That was huge key for me. Okay. And it was. I'm just going to be honest about that. Also, having good friends that you can reach out to is huge. I went through depression to the point, I'm going to admit this to all of you, I was going to end my life. I was that depressed because I had lots of life insurance. All these things. Here I was the owner of this business and blah, blah, blah. And I thought about ending it. And luckily, it came to me that, wait a minute, I'm here for a reason. Something happened. Not just something huge happened. However, I'm still here. Here I am. Now, God, whatever it is you think, I don't care, but I'm still here for a reason. And it's finding that reason and that purpose, as you were saying, is a really not easy, but it's a critical piece of us. Okay, because when you can find a new purpose, when you can find something that, this must have happened for a reason, and I'm still here. So I found that purpose. Okay, it took some time, but I love doing what I do. And I don't know if this is answering your question, but that's basically what I had to come to is, okay, there is a purpose for me. I've got to find it. I've got to go to work and get some things accomplished for myself.
No, I think that is the most important thing, to find purpose and passion again, which will drive us forward. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
See, as I said, and I'm seeing in the chat also, like Punima ji, I think she has logged in from States. I don't know where she is right now. But yes, she also says that finding purpose with any kind of volunteer work, maybe in your community, that is important. That is one thing that helps. Balaji is also, I know she's wonderful. She's doing wonderful work for the Alzheimer's affected in India. And she also basically said that I've personally seen a positive outcome when people open up, the family and the carers open up in spiritual, social, personal well-being.
Mhm.
And that has been, I think it's opening up is important. It is difficult, but opening up to people, opening up to the world, that can work. And that is, I think, also one of the spin-offs from sessions like that we have today, and also, of course, on our group.
Mhm.
People can open up, they know that there are people around sharing similar journeys, similar challenges, so that sense of empathy is there. It's not that I'm totally in the dark, so to say. I'm speaking to people who don't even know what I'm going through. So to that extent, I think, as you said, and as I think, as Balaji is also saying, sharing experiences, sharing journeys with people on a similar path, uh, it does matter, and it does help. That is what I feel, and many people on our groups that we have, they agree. Also, I'm just curious, do you also still consult some medical doctors, some therapists? Are you still undergoing some medication, or you are completely off them presently?
So I still see doctors. I have to go in for and COVID happened and pushed everything out, frankly. But I'm scheduled to go in actually in a couple weeks here. I have to go in and I have to have some surgery and stuff done. I do see my docs fairly regularly. I'm not taking any meds. I am not taking even aspirin or anything for me, but that's me. I do think that as a whole, people in general lean on their doctors and think that they should take whatever meds. And I just profess that docs they got taught a certain way, depending on what college they went to or whatever, and they think a certain way. Like you were saying as well, Hardeep, that some of the neurologists are still teaching certain ways because they haven't updated themselves, and and that's just how it is. And they're just people like you and I. And so we have to give ourselves some credit and think about our own bodies and and our own minds and
Right,
continue on the
absolutely.
journey.
I see Raghunandan wants to say something. Raghunandan,
Yes.
you can speak up. Yes.
Yes. I uh, I had a stroke since 4 years back. I'm able to find my passion or purpose in the life after stroke. I have a job, IT job. I'm um I'm frustrated with it. I'm my passion is I have done the organic farming, and due to the stroke, due to the brain hemorrhage, I sold that farm to somebody who is willing to buy. I'm yet to find my passion. As soon as I got it, I will convey to you, Hardeep and Keith.
So let me make sure I understand. So you're having a hard time finding a new passion, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, finding a passion and a purpose is almost like a job. It's almost like you have to say, okay, I'm going to lock myself up for an hour or 2 hours, and I'm just going to think of things, and I'm going to write. Can you write, Raghunandan?
Yes.
Okay.
I can type with my left hand.
Okay. And I don't care how long it takes you. type, write, whatever. It's your
Okay.
journey. It's no one else's journey. It's your journey. Okay.
Okay.
And you've been given this battle.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 43.
Okay. So you are a young guy. You've got a lot of time left. Don't push yourself too hard, but sit down, take time and start writing and start thinking. Record yourself if you have to, because you're
Yes.
going to forget. You're going to forget stuff.
Oh.
And then go back to it, a day or two later and look at what did I write? What did I write? And something will start to make, something will start to stick for you. And
Okay.
you will start to find something that you want to pursue. And
Okay.
as you find that pursuit, bud, you're going to be able to release some of the anxiety, some of the
Yes.
fear, the hate, all the things that are going on, and you'll start finding it. But it's not going to happen overnight. I want to make sure I tell you this. It's a journey. It's going to take your time, but please do the work. If we don't do the work, we never get there. And it's important. And you're a young guy. You should be doing this.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yes.
No, absolutely. As you said, Keith, and as I think many in the chat are also saying, setting examples, learning from others, maybe even finding a mentor that one can draw inspiration from. All these are steps, that we take in life. And as you said, one needs to stick to it and then find over time things start happening, and then I read somewhere what you focus on grows. So it's a question of finding focus. What you focus on then starts growing.
Absolutely.
I just look at my example. The Stroke Support India website, as I just mentioned to you before chat, it was set up in 2013. The site was there, but I wasn't as focused on that till about 2019 beginning. So when you start focusing on something, then we start opening up. People start joining, and in Hindi there is something. I just put that in Hindi. वो कहते हैं कि लोग जुड़ते गए, काफिला बढ़ता गया, which rough translation is when you start on your journey, people join in and the caravan grows.
Yeah. As long as you're committed.
Yes.
and you're committed to your own growth, right? First of all, because listen, you guys, we all know this, but we don't like to admit it. Everybody is focused on themselves. And that's how life is. Life is that way. That's what it is. You have to take some personal focus and think about yourself a little bit. I know that it's all great to say, this about everybody, and we love people. We do, and I do as well. But we have to take control and get passionate about ourselves a little bit and decide that we're going to grow. Can others see it? Absolutely. Can we live by example? Absolutely. But it's important for you at the end of the road, when you are, put down, you've got to be able to say, I lived a great life. I did the best I could to help others and myself. And I feel good about myself. And frankly, I feel that way today. If I was gone today, I know that I did what I could to help.
Absolutely. I think that is the most important. How did I live out? I think Punima ji has raised her hand. Punima ji, if you want to say something.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. First of all, I'm Purnima. I'm an occupational therapist in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yes. So thank you for that. And thank you for the great presentation and giving some practical ideas to a lot of our folks here who are in the meeting and who will be watching on YouTube. And thank you, Hardeep ji, for doing all this. He's a great leader to put us all together. So one thing I
Absolutely.
just want to add to what you're saying is that people go for rehab, go for their arm and leg exercises to the hospital, the clinics, or whatever it could be. And when you're going there, I encourage, I am a great advocate for people to volunteer at the hospitals, clinics, wherever they can find. And they can always, they're offering free service. So it is helping themselves while helping others. So the clinics that you go to, the local libraries you go to, or sometimes people have difficulty reading, writing, and being there. And I know it takes a lot of work to start that kind of a process, but hospitals, I get my patients to volunteer at the hospital. They come and do, like, they are greeters. Sometimes they cannot do anything, but they greet people at the entrance and they say, thank you for coming here. Or they are in the admitting department, or guiding people who are able to walk around, finding places to go to, which office they need to go. There are different roles you can play, and you can get involved, and that is helping yourself while helping others.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. So thank you for saying all that. And I agree with you 100%. One thing that I'll mention is as well, because as you talk about OTs and PTs and all that you guys do, and you guys do a wonderful job, and I'm so thankful for it. But I was frustrated. And when I wrote the BASE program, it was to help people that weren't getting the mental help that they really needed to get on with their life. Okay. And so I totally agree with and I'm so thankful for the OTs and the PTs, and for you, frankly. I appreciate what you're doing and helping people. But please, also as you're talking about, go, talk to others and stuff. These guys, they need to get out of the depression. And physical therapy, and occupational therapy at times, you're moving them as they need. So I hope I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm so appreciative of you. But we also need to have the mental thoughts. And that's why I wrote the BASE program, because people need to know that they got to believe in themselves again, and they can have the right attitude and the strength and the, energy to move on. And so the BASE program, and listen, I'm not here to sell anything.
Agree with you, Keith. I agree with you. Absolutely. Emotional strength has to be there to do
Yes.
anything beyond your therapy. And people think in the initial phases they get some help, but it is more. The help is needed more after the acute rehab, outpatient therapy. But beyond that, when people are realizing, okay, this is how far I've come along, now it's me who has to do all the work. And that's where, I focus on physical and doing their rehab, cognitive rehab, behavior rehab. But even beyond that, I get people to come back and I support them. I am a big advocate of getting people out of that patient role. They have to be a person, not a patient, their lifelong.
Absolutely. Agreed. And you and I could talk later, or whatever. And I hope, please share my email too, Hardeep, or can I just type it in here?
Yeah, please, you can put in the chat. Of course, we'll put it in the on our groups also later, but feel free to put it in the chat.
Because if anybody's got questions, and listen, I don't have all the answers. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy that thinks I do. However, I can help people. I really believe that I'm helping a lot of people, And so we could have some more discussion about that exactly. I believe in the OTs and the PTs, and I loved what you said about the cognitive support. That's huge. We've got to, and more, frankly, OTs and PTs should be talking to people about that, frankly, because there's a disconnect, I believe, in that.
Sure. As Purnima said,
Agree. Thank you. Yes.
that is, and I know that Purnima ji is a huge support, and I know that she volunteers in India. I know she gets involved in different activities, both in India as well as in Los Angeles. And as she said, I think these are interesting thoughts to ponder upon, even for the affected. Given where I am, how can I open out? How can I become, useful to someone, even to a slight extent? As she said, maybe half day guiding people, maybe going to a hospital and to the stroke ward. And I know people in Bombay. We have someone who has done that a couple of times. He has gone to the stroke wards to encourage people. So there are different ways, of course, depending upon one's own limitations and the opportunities. But I think the underlying thread is be open to life as such, be open to experiencing it.
Yes.
And then seeing which way it leads, that is, as you rightly said, life has given you and other affected a second chance. Why? No, it's important to think a bit about it. Why? And then within that, seek answers. And I'm sure as one ponders, the answers come. Let's talk a little bit about your program, Keith. We're at 9:40, but we'll take some more time about the program that you have developed. And you said that you have done a course for that also. And,
okay. So originally I wrote the base program in just a long, booklet form. And again, it's about belief and attitude and strength and energy. And I don't want to take too much of your time, but what happened was I was giving it and helping people, and frankly, I'm a for-profit company. I'm debating whether to stay that way. If anybody wants, access, they can let me know. But so now what happened was I talked to another stroke survivor, and she was like, I love the program, but it in written form like this, it takes me forever to get through it. And there's actual worksheets at the end of each little chapter. Anyway, so what I did was I decided, okay, I'm going to put this online. And so I created the base program, and now it lives in it's a program, if you will. It's got 15 modules, and I go into, 3 or 4 each: belief, attitude, strength, and energy, and talk about these modules. And then there's at the end of each module, there's a workbook or a worksheet that you should download and do on your own. And some people may think that it seems a little elementary, but in my experience, people who are after stroke, we've got to start somewhere. We've got to start getting legs under us again, so to speak. And so that's what it's about.
thank you very much. And as you said, it's a 15 module program. Any time limits or any time schedule for that?
Nope. You can take it at your own pace. And of course, if somebody goes to strengthafterstroke.com, that's where my stuff lives. And, but email me, reach out to me. I'm not in this to try to make a huge amount of money or anything like that. I was just trying to support its own self, really, was what I was doing. I mean, now I've got that at $49, but I can just reach out to me if you want any help. And
Absolutely, that will be wonderful, and
yeah.
I'm sure anyone here who's listening and will be seeing the video later on, they can find and they can reach out to you, and we will do that.
But real quick, last thing, Hardeep, is just listen. Personally, you've got to believe in yourself. Personally, you've got to gain that trust in yourself and that belief in yourself, and continue to move forward. That's what it's all about. Continue to move
Absolutely.
forward. And I'm so appreciative of this experience with you, Hardeep, and I appreciate everybody on here. But whatever you do, whether it's any of my stuff or not, it doesn't matter. I want you to continue to move forward and have a good life.
It's interesting that you say that. Very, Ralph Preston is also quite active. I have interacted with him on Facebook, and we'll be probably having him shortly in one of our meetings. He has put a figure somewhere. I don't remember where. It says, "How do you move an elephant?" And then the answer is, keep pushing. It is an answer, yes. And as one keeps pushing, I'm sure results happen.
That's right.
Life has that. So thank you very much, Keith. I'll just take a minute. If anyone wants to say something or add something or ask something, we have some time. Please raise your hand and mute yourself, and we'll have a short chat. If anyone wants to say something. Okay, Shailaja.
Yeah. Okay.
We can't hear you, Shailaja. No, we cannot hear you, Shailaja.
Yeah. Maybe she can type it in or something.
Yeah. Shruti, maybe you can see something in the meanwhile.
Yeah. Hi, Kate. I believe.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Shailaja, please go ahead. Then
Bluetooth
Shruti
was
will add.
not working, basically. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay.
Actually, Keith, listening to you made it sound very easy, actually. At least that much is something that I could infer from your talks. The first question that I asked, right, initially was about maps and navigation. How are you actually doing with maps and navigation? First, when I was not really audible at that time. So those kind of things usually depress me, because I used to travel a lot, and instantly depress me, in fact.
Well, so first of all, you talk about, you make it sound easy. I'm out 13 years, right? And the first 4 were very, very, very difficult, very difficult. But I kept pushing and kept working at it. And so you got to do that. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2, maps. And that, here's what I would profess to you is continue to work at it. Take maps out, study them, start working at it, because you've got to rebuild those synapses in your brain. You've got to do that. And it's not going to happen if you just say, well, I can't do that. No, you've got to start doing it. It's going to be a pain in the butt. It's going to be hard, but you've got to start doing it, and you will get there. And the last thing I'm going to say is journal about it. Make sure you make a note where you're at today, and then, keep looking at it, every month or whatever, and see the journey, because as you start seeing that motivate that, the things unfold, it will motivate you to do more. And that's what you need. And then off you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Keith. And it was a very insightful chat. Learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shailaja. Good to have you. And Shruti is there? Yes, Shruti.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I believe, the journey after a stroke is, it's all about resilience. So how much, I feel everybody will resonate now with the same, about the same with me. So it's how we find the passion, the purpose in life, and how we move forward. So it's all about self-motivation, though there is a lot of support, and holding up, till we reach our goals.
Absolutely. So if I'm
What is your way forward? What is your way forward? Your plans for your future?
So my plans are to continue to do what I'm doing. I have a thing that I read every day. And not that it, I just, I don't share this with everybody, but I say when I die, I want to leave a legacy for my family. And I want them to know how much I loved them and thought of them. I want to feel proud of who I was and what I was trying to do while I was on this planet. And I read that every day. It's kind of my mantra. And I believe that by having that, it helps motivate me to do the things that I do. When you talk about resilience, that's huge, because you're going to have a step forward and 2 steps back, like we were talking about before. It's going to happen. And more so with stroke survivors than a lot of folks. And really, stroke survivors are the only ones who really get it. But, the self-motivation, it's an internal thing almost. You can develop it, but you've got to want it. You've got to want to have it. And when you find that, then you will continue to move on. So I hope that helps.
So this is the biggest takeaway from you for me today. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, your mantra is now our mantra. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. And as
All
Wilson
the best.
also says, I'm seeing Wilson also putting in the chat that the mantra is basically keep pushing, keep smiling, and keep moving. That is indeed for all, all who have been on chat, and we'll see it later. I think some of the aspects that we touched upon are wonderfully put forward by you, Keith, and also by all who participated. So thank you very much, really. It has been wonderful having you. And we really wish you the best. And of course, we will be in touch off and on whenever you want to come back. You're always welcome. We can host another chat. And thank you very much and wish you the best.
Well, thank you. And one last 30-second deal here. I so appreciate what you're doing. It's huge. And I hope everybody understands that Hardeep is really working hard to help the community. And we all care about you too, Hardeep. And thank you so much.
So kind of you. And well, my motivation is what, when people join in, when we interact, that's my motivation. And,
Right.
and somewhere I believe I'm, the things that I did not perhaps get when I was in those situations. I think somewhere we are adding to that pool of knowledge, that pool of examples and inspiration for others to follow. And as you said, maybe leave something behind, maybe leave something that others can use to some extent. So thank you very much again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys, all of you.
And I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you.